All right, hi everybody. Ron Graziano here from Proper Guidance, and thank you first of all for joining my live today. What I want to talk to you about is 5 actionable tips that you can utilize immediately to scale your business. The very first business I started up, I've been in entrepreneurial business since 2000. So in 2000, I started my very first company as a small side job, but and that job ended up taking me to being a full-time entrepreneur. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But here's the thing: the 5 tips that I want to go over with you today, the 5 tips that we're going to cover today immediately to give you something to think about. The first one we're going to talk about is building out the horizontal of your business ahead of the vertical. Now, when I scaled my business from $30,000 in year one to $1.4 million in year four, I knew that there was something going on. And I'm going to share with you what I did to make sure that I stayed ahead of that vertical growth. The second thing we're going to talk about today is delegate, automate, and eliminate, how to get your time back. And just because you can delegate or automate something or even eliminate it doesn't mean you should. How to scale a culture, we need to make sure that we know what's going on in the culture. But I have to have a culture first. And I have to have a vision first before I scale it, because I can't share it with other people unless I know what it is. Next, we're going to talk about building a rock star team. When I start to build out my company and I move on from being a solopreneur to being more of a company operator, I need to know the things that are going to be necessary to build that team. And then we're going to give you some book recommendations at the end. Here's the thing: when we're thinking about scaling our business, but here's what I experienced. I didn't think about scaling my business when I first started my business because I was focused on starting the business. But what I've learned, and as I've worked with other people helping them start up their business, is what I learned was making sure that we're focusing on scale from the minute we sign. So here's the thing: if we don't think about scaling the business as soon as we start the business, we're going to automatically be behind. Let me give you a chance and let me just share this with you. And I'm going to pull up a whiteboard and we're going to go over exactly what this looks like. Okay, here we go. All right, friends. Here we are. So when we start the business, I want you to think about your business on 2 different lines, right? And the vertical line, I want you to think about, instead of sales, I want you to think about customers, the customer experience. And on the bottom of that, I want you to think about the company. That's you. All right. And now when we start off initially, we start off at the very beginning, we start off with an idea. And probably what we built out at the very first of the business, this portion right here was very small because it was just an idea. We put some capital in and we had a lot of ideas. But what happens is we start getting customers, which means revenue is growing. But what happens with most entrepreneurs and where they get stuck is they don't build out this portion of the business. So let's focus on this bottom line of the business. This is the foundation that the business is going to be built on. And without a foundation, if I don't continue to grow and add resources, if I don't start building systems, if I don't start understanding what is my culture, then what's going to happen is the customer experience is not going to be great. Because what's going to happen here is my customers are going to come in and they're going to experience my product, but I can't support them because I don't have this horizontal growth, and I'm going to drop off. And then I'm going to say, oh, I need to do something. So then I'm going to do this activity, and then I'm going to grow again to about here. But you see what happens is when I get to here, there's no foundation here. There's nothing. It's missing. This is where I start asking myself questions. Why is it that I'm continuing to see this up and down growth? And what happens to this, why you're doing this up and down, while your trajectory is trying to be going up, what happens is you start to lose customer trust. You start to lose brand. You start to lose brand recognition. Now, what are the things that we're going to grow on the bottom? What are these things? What are these things that we're growing here? I'm going to talk about that next because those are our 5 tips. So the first actionable item that I want to tell you about, the first tip is, as soon as you start growing your business, from the day you start thinking, from day one, actually before day one. Okay. One of the things I want you to think about is if we're on a timeline and this is day one of the business, I want you to think about all the other things you should be doing over here. When in incident management, we call this left of bang. Okay. And left of bang is everything on the timeline that happens before this. So this is where you should be thinking about what's the name of my company? How large is my company going to be? What's the location, geographics, demographics? When we start thinking about before one and why scale needs to be in my mind from the minute we start, even before we start. When I started my third company, which is this company, Proper Guidance, and actually when I started my second company, which is a full-time martial arts school that I've been running for 7 years, a lot of my friends, the first thing they asked me was, "Hey, Rob, when are you going to sell this business?" Because what I did was I sold my first business after having it, operating it for 11 years, but we started getting prospected about year 9. So the scale of your business, why is that important? All right, let's move on to the next thing. And hopefully that image helped you understand the vertical and the horizontal and think about the customers and the company, right? Too many times we get focused on sales and revenue. Sales and revenue is a byproduct of the relationships you have with your customers. And if you're not building strong relationships, your customers are not going to stay with you very long. And your cost to acquire customers is going to continue to go up, which means you're going to constantly be infusing money instead of keeping money. And we want to keep as much as we can. All right, let's move on to delegate, automate, and eliminate. Because let me tell you what happened to me during COVID. During COVID, my martial arts business was closed down. We could not see students in person. Now, you might want to ask yourself how you're possibly going to train martial arts if you can't have face-to-face interaction with our students. We pivoted really quick. And what we did is we used this delegate, automate, and eliminate. What were the things that we could eliminate immediately or that were eliminated because the government closed down? But let me tell you what we did. We automated as much of the process as we can, and we delegated responsibilities. We went 100% virtual. We kept the same exact schedule, and we taught over 250 martial arts classes for 15 weeks. We continued to do everything we normally did. And you want to know what happened at the end of COVID? We saw our growth in our business, and we literally saw record highs immediately coming out of COVID in 2021 and 2022. But that's what we did. Why? Because we delegated, automated, and eliminated. Now, how do I know what I can delegate, what I can automate, and what I can eliminate? I have to know what tools are available to me. And when I think about the tools that are available to me, I immediately think about my human resources and the resources I have in technology and actually engage my customers. Again, you're going to hear me talk about customers a lot because I want to try to help people change the mindset away from sales and customer-based relationships. All right. So when I delegate, automate, and eliminate, even though I identify something, and this is going on right now, very common with businesses trying to scale. They're scaling and they believe that AI automations are going to significantly increase their productivity. There's a place for automations. You cannot build solid relationships. People, even though they've become online consumers, I want to caution you on what should and shouldn't be automated. More importantly, in what stage of the customer journey. Write this down. Most of us may know this as client lifecycle. The life cycle usually begins with cost to acquire, retention, customer value, customer lifetime value. But here's the thing. Here's something I learned and I transformed. I had a great coach who helped me understand the difference between the client lifestyle and the customer journey. Stage one of the customer journey is awareness. And awareness is where the relationship begins and where the trust starts to build. And we look at know and trust. If they don't know us, they can't get to like us, and they're not going to trust us. Change this to 6 stages of the customer journey. And this is what we look at whenever we consider, should I delegate, should I automate, or should I eliminate? Stage one of the customer journey. Awareness. People can't find you if they don't know who you are. They're not going to engage with your product. I started focusing on buyer psychology or customer experience, helped me significantly grow that business. All right, I'm going to tell you a story about that in a second. Stage two, consideration. We have to move them from awareness to consideration. That's where I'm considering, where are these automations happening? What part of that journey should I be delegating to other people? Now, after consideration, we go to purchase. The purchase stage is the stage where they actually realize they know and trust you. Here's the three psychology pieces right here. Brain psychology. My coach, Shanae, is constantly telling us you cannot fight neuroscience. You cannot fight brain biology. And here's the brain biology. Buyer psychology number one. The very first thing most buyers are asking themselves, do you care about me? Do you care about me? And we know that Zig Ziglar said, people want to know how much you care before they care about how much. Sometimes as entrepreneur, we're trying to put our expertise on display. We're trying to overwhelm people. And this is what I talk about with my clients. They verbally vomit all the product, right? They get caught up in features, not benefits, and so on and so forth. So item number one, customer wants to know, do you care about me? Do I trust you enough to give you my money? Do I trust you enough to give you my money? And usually that ends up with, I know you cared about me. Here's how you show people they care. Ask great questions when you're scaling your business and you're trying to build customers. Now we're going to move to purchase. When they purchase the product, they've agreed, they buy it from you. The next one is mostly the one that probably needs the most attention. If you're scaling your business and you're scaling at a very quick pace, onboarding. Every single business has some onboarding process. If you're trying to scale your business and as an entrepreneur, you're trying to understand, why do you make great sales? And then all of a sudden, within a short period of time of that sale, there's friction with your customer. It's probably because you didn't onboard them. Onboarding them is super important, and it's what's going to help you move them to the next stage, because after onboarding, we have to move them to stage 5, which is retention. And my retention strategy is pretty simple. It's cheaper to keep that customer happy than it is to go out and acquire a new one. If you have a great referral and retention system that's advocacy, when people stay longer, we get to sell them more product. And if they stay longer, they spend more money over a period of time. This increases customer value exponentially by driving up customer lifetime value. When you're doing that, you'll see your front end costs go down and your profits will go up, because your front end cost goes down because your cost to acquire goes down because you're keeping more people longer and they're referring you. And that's advocacy, the last stage. Stage number one, awareness. Stage number two, consideration. Stage number three, purchase. Stage number four, onboarding. Stage number five, retention. And stage number six, advocacy. All right. Now, that's how we decide. Again, delegate, automate, eliminate. When I'm looking at delegate, automate, eliminate, I'm looking at my customer journey and I'm saying, where do these activities, where do these tasks, where do they play a role? All right, here we go. How to scale a culture. I hear this all the time, especially from my clients. They say, Ron, I'm not sure what my culture is, or I think I need a culture. If you've been in business for 3 to 5 years, you probably have already developed a culture, but you've created a culture by default. Cultures by default are not consistent. Cultures by default that lack consistency lack the ability to duplicate. And if you can't duplicate to at least 80% as good as you're doing all the activities, then you cannot scale it and grow it. Simple. No consistency, no duplication, no scale, no growth. How to build a culture by design. All right, here we go. Culture by design. Are you ready? 5 pillars from Jeff Henderson's book, What Are You Known For? How to Build a Culture by Design. All right. If you've ever struggled with culture before, I want you to write culture in the comments. If you've built a culture and you know how difficult it is to sustain the culture, then I want you to also write culture in the comments because that will let me know that you understand what culture is. Let me give you these 5 pillars about building a culture by design. And I can tell you that about 2 years ago, when we were out of COVID and we were back into what we considered regular or the new normal, one of the things I looked at was how can we do better in our martial arts business by building a stronger culture? And we call it our tribe. We like to say it takes a village to raise a child. That village, the people who live in that village are the tribe, and the tribe members are the ones that are putting in the work. Phase pillar number 1, believe abundantly. I cannot influence or try to tell you enough about the importance of when I work with my clients, the greatest challenge they have is their mindset challenge. And here's what I've learned. The greatest struggle for most entrepreneurs who are trying to scale their business is not capital or revenue. It's not the money. The money will come. You will find money. There will be plenty of people who are going to want to lend you money. You're going to find money to infuse into your business. That is not going to be your greatest challenge. Your mindset. And you have to believe abundantly. You had these great ideas. You had innovative thought. That's why you started your business. And then every time you hit a friction or you hit a bump in the road, you questioned yourself and you moved out of an abundant mindset and into a scarcity mindset. If your culture is built on a scarcity mindset, people will not stay with you. Pillar number 2, appreciate consistently. Appreciating consistently is appreciating internally and externally. In year forward, the growth of that company was astronomical. And what I found was I started having more buying power with my vendors to drive my cost of goods sold down. But here's what I did. I realized the relationship with my vendors was just as important with the relationship with my customer. Because if my vendor didn't supply me the product that I needed in a timely manner, if my vendor did not deliver on an order, it affected my ability to deliver the service to my customer. Think about that for a second. It doesn't matter what your business is. If you're working with people who supply you resources, then you have to build that relationship just as much. Okay. So what I did was I appreciated my vendors regularly. I was one of the few contractors that would be taking my vendor to a ball game, taking my vendor to a hockey game. Instead, most contractors thought the vendor should be taking me to these type of events. Appreciate consistently, externally. Number 3, develop intentionally. This is where we start talking about building your rockstar team, the importance about developing intentionally. Now, if you struggled with developing your team, I want you to write in the comments, develop, because here's common phrase. I don't have time. I don't have the time to develop my team. Here's the other one. There's no good people out there. There's no good people out there. If you're challenged developing your team, tell me if you write develop and say no good people, if you've heard that before, right? There are plenty of great people out there. The problem is sometimes we're hiring the wrong person for the wrong job. Sometimes we're meeting the prospect. We don't find out they're the wrong prospect until we move into the onboarding stage, where if we move them back to the awareness stage, then we would have went through all the stages. And by the time they got to prospect, we would have knew if we had the right customer for us, the right customer for our business, and whether or not the company would be able to deliver and meet mutually agreed upon expectations when you're scaling your company. One of the biggest friction points is mutually agreed upon expectations. You're going to get friction and you're going to start getting bad reviews when your customer thinks they were going to get something, you think you sold them something, and those two things are so far apart. That's what causes customers to give you bad reviews. Narrow the gap between actual and optimal and develop intentionally. Develop your systems intentionally. Develop your customer service strategies intentionally. Develop your team once you start building them intentionally. Now, listen, I also want to tell you something. In the 24 years or over 24 years that I've been in entrepreneurial business, here's what I found, that when you're able to manage expectations, you get so much further and you remove so much friction because we both agree. And if we can't agree, then we can't do business together. So you will hear me talk about mutually agreed upon expectations quite often because sometimes it gets a little blurry. All right. Pillar four, listen actively. When you're listening actively, ask great questions. I am not a great creator. Just tell you right now, I'm not great at creation and I'm not great at curation. Now I became better at creation because a lot of my marketing materials, when I had other people creating the marketing materials, they just didn't seem to match my vision, right? If you've worked with somebody and you've told them something and they say, oh yeah, I got it. I understand. And you try to tell them more and they don't know, Ron, I got it. I understand. And then 3 days later, 4 days later, 5 days later, they send you something and it's not at all what you envisioned. It's not at all what you think you told them. They had a vision, you had a vision. So I started doing creation on my own. But here's what I'm super great at. I move very quickly and I do everything with a specific purpose. Most of the clients that I'm working with are struggling with implementation beyond the initial innovative idea. They had a great idea that worked, weaned off. What do I do next? Next steps, implementation, speed, move quickly. Because once I move quickly, I can correct my mistakes and then I can do it and I see it real time so I can do great. All right. Listening actively, ask great questions, seek insight of what the conversation is about, take action on the things that you hear, catalog information. People are telling you stuff, catalog it. I use a lot of data points to gather the information I need because listening actively helps me make data driven decisions. Too many entrepreneurs get stuck in scaling their business because they're not making data driven decisions. They're making emotionally based decisions. I think this is a great idea, so I'm going to do this thing. I think this is a great new tool, so I'm going to buy this new tool. And then they never use it. And then they blame the tool for being bad when they never really implemented it in the first place. The last one is living repeatedly. Put your vision on repeat. Leaders are repeaters. Put your vision on repeat. Proper guidance. It's all about you. About 2 years ago, when I decided that I was going to build a culture by design, I realized I needed to abandon transactional relationships. Transactional relationships will not build your customer base. It will not sustain your business. It will not build long-term clients. You will have a lower customer value. You will have an even lower customer lifetime value. There we go. All right. Live repeatedly. For me, living repeatedly is asking myself every single day, what have I done today to grow my business? What have I done today to wow one person? What have I done today for one customer that I wish I can do for every customer? That's how I live repeatedly. That's my vision. It's all about you. And in my proper guidance company, which is Professional and Personal Growth, PPG, Professional and Personal Growth, building a culture by design, 5 pillars. If you follow those 5 pillars in an actionable way, I promise you, you will start to build a culture. And even if you're a solopreneur and you're the only person right now, as we get to the next one, which is build a rock star team. How do I build a rock star team? All right, we're going to go back to the whiteboard here. So when we go in here, we're going to be ready. All right, here we go. And there we go. Oh, all right, here we go. Let me get my pencil. All right. So I want you to think as I build my rockstar team and I'm a solopreneur, here's you, and here is everything that you have up here in your brain, everything you need to run your business. You're a solopreneur, and all your systems and everything that you've done, you did organically. You made mistakes, you corrected them, but you did them all organically. And then you say, hey, I read this great book, The E-Myth, and The E-Myth told me that I should be spending more time working on my business instead of working in my business. I really didn't understand what that was, but I finally figured it out. And what that means is I need to hire more people. And of course, when I hire these people, they're suddenly going to know what to do because they somehow will get all the information in my brain. And this is where I start encountering my employees and they start doing things and they go from being happy because they got hired to being sad because they can't seem to do anything right. So, how do I build my rockstar team? If I want to build a rockstar team, what I'm going to have to do is download it into system. And then what I'm going to have to do is determine which one of those systems is right for what employee. And then what I'm going to do is cross train them. And then what I'm going to do is continue to do new systems. Now, what do we call this? I like to call this roles and responsibilities because I hire people to fill roles and responsibilities. But here's one thing I don't do. I don't hire people solely just to grow my business. I use my business to help people grow. People don't quit purpose. So how do I do that? All right. A lot of people are challenged because when they hear systems, they also use their life experience with all these things, which are called SOPs, policy manuals, handbook, right? When they did all these, the problem was, here's the problem. But the challenge is when I'm doing simple and easy, that there's nothing easy about simple. Because even if this simple thing only has 3 steps in it, 3 things to do in whatever this system is, it doesn't mean that those 3 steps are going to be easy. Here's the final note on building your rockstar team. Here's your rockstar team member. Here's what you need to be focusing on. All right. What does this model mean? What the heck is that? All right. Here's what it is. Here's your team member. Knowledge, skill, ability. We need to make sure that the roles and responsibilities are primarily built on KSAs. What are the KSAs in that role responsibility? The role and responsibility is always about the need of the business. Roles and responsibilities are never built around a specific person. This is another challenge that I see when I'm working with entrepreneurs. First of all, their ego's in the way and it says, I'm the boss. Once I hire them, I can make them do whatever I want them to do, however I want them to do it. I'm the boss. I built this company. I know what's needed. I know what's right. They have to do what I tell them. Or they have somebody that's been working with them over a period of time growing their business, and that person is doing some work and they create a role and responsibility that matches the person. And when you do that, a lot of times the needs of the business come second and the needs of the person become first. And you just can't do that. All right, knowledge, skill, and ability. This one, the first C is capacity. Capacity. A lot of times with a new company, here's what we think. Here's all their smiling faces. Hours worked. CEO, hours worked. 80 to 100 in a week. I hire employees 40, 40, 40, 40. Instead of believing that I have 160-hour output, I believe that my employees are going to work just as hard as I do. And so when I hire 4 employees, I think I should at least have 4 times 80. But in the perfect world, I got another 400 hours of output. This is a big challenge when I'm building the Rockstar team, and this caused people to put customers, trajectory, down, up, down. They quit. I hire new employees, they quit. But as I'm hiring new employees, I'm not going this way. Every time I have to replace an employee, I move back a little bit. And every time I move backward just a little bit, what happens to the customer service experience? Now, now build a rock star team. Roles and responsibilities. Make sure you're writing roles and responsibilities when you start hiring people. And here's what I'm going to tell you how I did it in my landscape company. And I'm going to share with you how I did it in the martial arts company. In the landscape company, I immediately realized that I needed to decentralize command. It's one of the laws of combat from the book Extreme Ownership. Decentralized command. I needed to empower people that were actually doing it because at one point we had a fleet of 10 trucks on the road, 10 trucks going in 10 different directions, doing 10 different things. Because we serviced over 450 acres of commercial turf on a weekly basis. We also did the maintenance, the bush maintenance, we did bed maintenance, we did tree maintenance, we did construction, we did all that. So here's what I did. I started creating different departments within the company. And I gave specific people specific roles, and I gave them the authority. Here's what I'm saying. I gave them the authority to make decisions. But here's the thing I did first. When I developed them intentionally, I took them and they worked with me for a minimum of 2 weeks. So they could experience exactly how I talked to the customer, exactly how I talked to the vendor, exactly how I picked up product, exactly where I delivered product. They learned exactly what my routine was so that they can duplicate it because it was consistent. And then I was able to scale. When I sold the company, my senior employee out of 18 full-time employees, my senior employee worked for me for 8 years. My junior employee had 5 years tenure on the company. That's 18 full-time employees. I can promise you that's a reason why when the company acquired my company, they did it because they told me specifically they have a hard time keeping people and they wanted the culture that I had built. I built culture. I didn't even know I was doing it because I was being consistent. When I decided I needed to hire a back office person, somebody to help me run the business, when I hired my first back office manager, my customer service manager, which was unique for martial arts businesses, you will not find many martial arts schools at all that in their structure, they have a customer service manager. Customer service was very important to me. When I hired my first customer service manager, that's what she did. Because what happened was, while I was running the business, I got caught up on all the information that was in my head. Everything that I was doing on a daily basis was all here. All the daily tasks, all the daily routine, all of the classes, promotions, ordering. These processes were in my head. I had to get them out of my head. I had to get them not only into her head, but then I also had to get her to be able to create the systems so other people can do it. Are you seeing that? Once the customer service manager was able to do this, then I was able to add more staff. When they got hired, they were much happier because we had systems. Systems, building a team, building a rockstar team. All right, we're down to the last one, the last tip, my 5 tips, right? So I gave you a tip beginning, build horizontal ahead of vertical. Then I talked to you a little bit about tips on how to delegate, automate, eliminate, and how to build your team and how to make sure that you're doing that. Then I talked to you about the 5 pillars of building a culture by design. Then we talked about getting what's in my head, working what's on my business or in my business, and spend more time working on the business. I was going to talk to you about estimated hourly rate, but I want to talk to you about social media and moments of impact. What is a moment of impact and how do I create fear of missing out? Fear of missing out is not a new thing in customer service, right? To social media. In the social media channels, we named it, we called it something, but fear of missing out has been around forever, right? Fear of missing out is not something new. Moments of impact is what used to happen in customer-based business. I remember when I was a director of training and professional development, one of the things we worked on in that company when I had that corporate role was how we sent letters of appreciation, how when we brought on new clients, how when we brought on new employees, how we sent them things. We sent them handwritten notes. We sent them when they finished certain phases of training, they received certificates. We put them up on the company board, right? How do we do that? We have referral systems. We have customer appreciation systems. We ask them when we give gifts away, we ask them to share that experience in their social media feed. When I send them a card and they send me a note that says, "Hey, Mr. Graziano, thank you for that card. Thank you for that sign in my front lawn saying what a great kid my kid is." My response is, "Hey, I'd love for you to share that with other people." Your customers have specific moments of impact. The joy that they receive when they acquire your service, that first 30, 60, 90 days of that journey of onboarding is all about moments of impact because it's going to be things that you're doing for the first time. You need to memorialize those things. You need to take pictures, you need to make notes, and you need to put it on display. Leadership is all about influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership, and leadership is a visual thing. So let's tie it back to the brain biology, the neuroscience. Ask yourself, are you taking time to handwrite cards to customers? Yes, you do. Because if it's important enough to the business, you will find time to do it. Social media, put the social back into the social media. The other thing is start putting content that your customers are interested in your social media feed so they're actually interested in engaging with you. You want to learn more about that? All you got to do is follow my coach, Shanae Moret, and she will tell you the importance of don't post and ghost. Listen, I've had coaches throughout my entire entrepreneurial experience, and my coaches have helped me move further, faster. If you want to move further, faster, write coach in the comments, mentor in the comments. Because if you feel like you've gotten to a certain point and you're struggling moving past that point, then you need a coach. You need a mentor. Everybody who's been super successful, everybody who's been highly effective, all of these people have had coaches, every single one of them. And that's what coaches and mentors do. And they do that because they are allowed, they have the experience, they've been where you've been, they use best business practices, and they help you move further, faster. Those are my 5 tips. The first one, build out the horizontal ahead of the vertical. Simple does not mean easy. Simplicity is about taking super complex things and making them simple. But just because we make them simple does not make them easy. Remember, it must be consistent. It must be duplicatable in order to make it scalable. The measure that we use is 80%. When I move something down off of a list or add another team member, I want to make sure that they're doing it at least 80% as good as me or one of the managers. And sometimes the standard is set too high. And when I'm trying to scale the business, I encounter entrepreneurs who are focusing on replication instead of duplication. Chances are, if you're focusing on replication, you're never going to achieve that standard of replicating you. Nobody's going to be you. Nobody's going to care about your business as much as you. Employees will care if they have a purpose and if you develop them. Don't post and ghost. Use moments of impact to increase the fear of missing out. Put it in your social media feed, share notes with them, take pictures, have them write comments. If you start focusing on moments of impact in your social media feeds, your reviews will go up. Our martial arts business has been in business for 7 years. Our goal is to earn at least 2 5-star Google reviews a month. We have over 160 5-star Google reviews. And the Google reviews are about their customer experience. The Google review should never be about you. All right. I'm going to share with you a couple of book recommendations because we're just about at the end of the hour. And I want to make sure that I make some time for your questions. So here's the first book recommendation. What Are You Known For? By Jeff Henderson. And I believe this book has been a game changer for me, and it's helped my clients, and it creates a common language for us to speak. Second book recommendation. The first Maxwell book I ever wrote, the book that led me to join the Maxwell Certified Leadership Team. And I cannot say enough about the Maxwell Leadership Team. Amazing mentors and a huge inventory of resources that I have available to me to help you and make your journey easier. 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John C. Maxwell. All right. If you want to contact me, here's one of the ways you can contact me. Ron at properguidanceforyou.com. Ron at proper for the number 4, the letter U.com. The website. Put your information in. I'll contact you. If you're an entrepreneur and you've been in business for 3 to 5 years and you found that you have this up and down cycle and people are telling you that's normal, it's not normal. It doesn't have to be that way. That up and down cycle are having negative impacts on your business. They're having negative impacts on your emotional health. They're having negative impacts on your spiritual health. They're having negative impacts on your ability to obtain and sustain a abundance mindset. It's affecting your ability to have sustainable revenues. And when you have not sustainable revenues, it's hard to run the company when you're more worried about the finances than you are about the service. So if you're struggling, you're stuck, and you've been in this up and down cycle and you want to see a little bit more consistency, I'm going to help you understand the importance of growing horizontally. And a lot of times entrepreneurs don't grow horizontally because they just don't know how. Nobody's ever told them. I'm going to help you with that. I have clients that have been with me for anywhere between 5 years, 2 years, 18 months, 6 months. But here's how it all starts. The way it starts is we start by getting on a call and I talk to you about where you are in your business. And I hope that the things that I've done to grow 3 businesses that I have, I'm going to help you with. And if you feel like you need help, then that's what I want to do. To consistently, the clients that I work with, the clients who allow me to participate in growth of their business have regularly seen significant growth. I have a client in Canada who has regularly seen 100% increase in gross revenues. Went from 3 years ago during COVID, or 4 years ago now, maybe during COVID, running the business by himself, struggling to keep the business afloat, to now having a staff of 5 people. His wife doesn't have to work in the business anymore. They spend the summer at their trailer at the campgrounds now, their camper. And he, from 3 years ago to now, has increased gross revenue by over 280. And now we're focusing on how do we keep more of the money that we make. All right. Now, what do I have for you? Here's what I have for you. I'm going to offer you, if you stayed on me this long, we haven't got to the questions and you don't have any going to get questions, but here's what I want to offer you before we get to the questions. The first 5 people who contact me at the contact information, or if you just comment with scale, the first 5 people that comment with scale, I'm going to give you a free Maxwell DISC personality assessment. Now, let me tell you a little bit about DISC personality assessments. Since I've been a DISC coach, a DISC consultant, a DISC trainer, I've done 50 DISC assessments. I have yet to have somebody do the DISC assessment and then go to the one-on-one discovery call where we actually look at what the assistant tells you about your strengths and weaknesses within your personality and say, no, that is not me. Every single person that I've done this with, 50 now in the last 3 years, has told me this is me on paper, right? And when we break it down, it's about a 40-page booklet that you're going to get. It's amazing. You're going to get a 1-hour one-on-one discovery call with me. $199 value. Now, why do we want to start with a disc assessment? Because part of that disc assessment and part of that discovery call is going to be us talking about how it is that I can help you scale your company because that's my expertise. I've done it not just in my business, I've done it with clients. I've been successful at doing it. And I know that if I work with you and we can reach mutually agreed upon expectations, you will move further faster. And so here's my offer: 90 days of coaching or mentoring, one on one weekly Zoom calls for 12 weeks. It's $3,000. That's it. $3,000, not $29.99, not $29.97, $3,000 straight up for the first 90 days. I promise to get you results, and we're going to work on what you need to get the goals that you want, the way you want them. Make sure your coach is willing to work with you on the timeline that you can tolerate. Because if I give you a bunch of stuff to do and I try to move you at my timeline to reach my goals, chances are you're not going to move as quickly as I move because I've been moving at a specific pace for over 3 decades. So I know I need to move at a pace that you can tolerate. And the other thing is that when you're managing through change, you have to move at a pace that your culture can tolerate. Coaching system is 100% personalized and customized for you. There's no modular training. There's no courses to take. There's no standardized. I'm not going to send you to a Kajabi site where none of that's going to happen. This is real one-on-one coaching and mentoring. If you need help, contact me, reply with scale. I'm in scale. Hit my contact page that I gave you, ron@properguidance.com, properguidanceforyou.com. Fill out the contact page at the bottom of the contact page and write scale or write scale-LinkedIn. And I'm going to make sure you get the special offer. All right, friends, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you have any feedback, I'd love to have your feedback. And I'd love for you to tell me what I did good, what I can do better, and how it is that I can help you grow your business so that you can stop chasing your dreams. Let's start catching them. Friends, let me know. I'm going to make sure that I put this up so people can check it out. I am going to be doing another live 2 or 3 weeks. I'll let you know. It'll be on Monday at this time. And the next live I'm going to share with you is the number one thing I found my clients struggle with. And that's breaking out of the employee mindset and getting into an entrepreneur mindset. And then how do we develop an entrepreneur mindset so that we move you out of just being an entrepreneur and get you into a CEO lifestyle? What is the difference? Gerber explains it like this. If you have activities in your business that require you to do them, if you don't do them, they don't get done. You own a job. None of us became entrepreneurs to own a job. It's about doing more than that. Let me help you scale. Ron Graziano, the scaling expert, and I can help you scale your business. Leave some comments. Enjoy the rest of your day.